Hello and welcome to Canada in the studio. We've got quite messy table here because this is a wide topic. We're talking about bottom brackets tonight. I'm gonna tell you about different systems quite commonly used on most of the bikes today. Then on the right hand side we have different cranksets that will fit to those bottom brackets, and finally I'm gonna tell you just a bit about different tools that we'll need to fit or remove or replace bottom brackets on the frame. This is really a lot of information, so I'm trying to squeeze it into like 10 or 15 minutes. If I just forget about telling you something, please comment on that just beneath the video, or if you have different questions, send me those. I will definitely try to respond to those. All right, so we have those bottom brackets here on the left side. What are the bottom brackets? If you are a newbie, that's the part of the bike that will allow for our crankset to spin. All right, this is the frame. Here we have the bottom bracket shell, and that's the part that is going to be placed inside this shell in order to allow for our crankset to spin. So this is easy peasy. And now let's just begin with those bottom brackets that are being assembled to like high-end bikes. These are Pressfit bottom brackets. Let's just take Shimano as an example. We'll have on Shimano XTR Pressfit bottom brackets, and also these, also external bearings BSA system. Then we have here the Octalink bottom bracket with the bearings that are being assembled into the frame. These are inside the frame, and the spindle is a part of the bottom bracket. And finally we have also square tapered. So from XTR through XT, like LX, SLX and DR, we'll have both Pressfit option and BSA option with the thread here. And for like very cheap version of mountain bike components on Alivio, for example, I'm gonna just show you that on the Shimano catalog. I'm hoping that you will see something. This is the Alivio. We have the BSA bottom bracket like this one here, and then we have also the Octalink with the internal bearings option. That's for the Alivio. And then when we go for the Acera, here we have only the Octalink option. So here the bottom bracket will have also the spindle within. And finally, when we go for Altus and Tourney, on these we'll have the square tapered. So it will be quite like this one with the internal bearings, but the spindle will not be so oversized. It will be just square tapered. It won't be hollow. And then Shimano Tourney will have the square tapered as well. It will be same for Shimano road components. When we go down to Sora, on Sora we have still even Pressfit on Sora, but then on Claris we have, as you can see here, hopefully you can see that, the Octalink, and Tourney will have the square tapered. So what's the difference between those and which one is the best one? Well, I do believe that one of these is the best one, but there's also one I forgot to tell you about, and that's the BB30 or PF30 bottom bracket, and it looks just like that. So very easy. You don't have like a whole cartridge, simply two bearings that you will squeeze into the frame using those rings, actually fastening those onto place, and then finally locking with some spacers and then washers. All right, so just remember, those bottom brackets here on the left side will not have spindle within, so these will be compatible with the crankset that has spindle integrated to the crank arm. All right, and this one, Octalink and square tapered, needs a crankset that doesn't have a spindle integrated, because the spindle is integrated into the bottom bracket. So this will have like a right crank arm and left crank arm, and this is the Octalink system. The bearings are inside the frame. I'm hoping that I'm sharing this knowledge in the easy way and you just get it. It will be same for the square tapered spindle. So square tapered and Octalink will have the spindle inside the bottom bracket, and also those bearings will be inside the bottom, the frame. How does it look like? If we simply put it into the frame, you can see that those bearings here will be inside. If we take as an example this BSA system, we'll be putting this one here, and the bearing that is right here will be on the outside, just like that. So you can tell right away that this system, the BSA system, will be stiffer, because that's where we are having the bearings on the Octalink and square tapered, somewhere here, and that's how wide those bearings are for the BSA system, and as well for the Pressfit. So you would definitely want to have some of these systems on your bike. Now, the square tapered and the Octalink system will also need a special tool in order to remove the crankset, and that's the crankset puller. Because when we take our crankset, when we assemble it to the spindle and we'll just bolt it in, then we'll need some kind of tool that will allow us for pulling the crank off the spindle, because we won't be able to pull it off just by hand. So for square tapered and the Octalink system, we will need additional tool for removing the crankset. Those two, square tapered and Octalink, as you can see, as you saw, those are being sold with the cheapest group sets, and these are very heavy. You can feel just right away the difference in terms of the weight, but Octalink, because it's hollow and the spindle is oversized comparing to the square tapered, will be a bit better. Still, quite many riders are were still complaining and are complaining about Octalink system, and most of the riders would actually like to have this one. So external bearings, and we have the thread. We are threading those to the frame. This part is actually only sealing this system from the inside, so it's not like a structural part of our bottom bracket, and this is how it goes. All right, and now we have the Pressfit system, and sorry, but in my opinion, Pressfit means that you press it in and it doesn't fit. Why is it so? Well, I don't really understand why this system came to use and is being used for even very expensive bikes, also carbon bikes, because you can tell also right away that if you have those threads here, the bearings will sit much better into the frame than the one that you are simply pressing into the frame. And Pressfit, that's the system that's can be quite noisy, squeaky, and I know many riders who are complaining about their carbon frames in connection with these Pressfit systems, because these are like some cheap bottom brackets. Quite often, not always, but quite often. So this one is the system that I will never use for my bike. This one is like, I would say it's a standard version. This BSA system will just come like this on that spindle, and then the rest of it will come just like that. Very easy to assemble. You don't have any any bolt here on the crankset, on the crank arm. This spindle is also hollow. You do have some bolts on this one for Octalink and square tapered. So this one will be stiffer, will be lighter, easier to maintain. And that's something that I would really recommend to have on your bike. BSA system, very good one. Now for the BB30, because BB30, that's the system I was having on my Cat 8, Cannondale Cat 8, and I'm having now on Cat 10, and I do like it. What's the difference between this one comparing to like BSA and the Pressfit? This one has a different spindle. You can see that the spindle here is oversized, it's 30 millimeters comparing to this one. You can see the difference, but I've made some other video comparing BB30 with BSA, so you can just watch that one. You can see that BB30 will have a shorter spindle, but more oversized. And once again, this will be very light. It will be quite stiff because those bearings are larger, but then these bearings are external bearings, and on the BB30 system the bearings will be once again inside, just like on the Octalink system. Some people do complain about these BB30 or PF30 systems. You can see those systems here, BB30, PF30, 30 millimeters spindle, because they also do make noise, especially on carbon frames. I haven't been riding a lot on carbon Cannondales with BB30 bottom brackets, but on my Cannondale Cat 8 and Cat 10, no problem whatsoever. So that can be also tricky buying a bike, but I would say that it's very risky when you purchase a carbon bike with the Pressfit system. It's it's just best to read some reviews on those with the BB30, and when you buy a BSA system, I would say that's the safest place for you if you don't have like a lot of knowledge and experience to have this system. Now there is also some other system that Campagnolo uses, and I love this one as well. This is a Campagnolo record crankset. Let me just show you the other part of it. That's the bolt that I should just take off. This is called the Ultra Torque spindle, and as you can see, those bearings are being assembled already on the crankset. Then we use some shells that we just thread onto the frame, and it comes into the frame, and it's super smooth. These bearings work like smooth, like crazy, but these are ceramic USB ultra smooth bearings, and it really works like that. So for Campagnolo I have no complaints. I have never had complaints, but I do know some people who do change these bearings quite often. I've never had problems with this, but I also didn't make like thousands of kilometers on a bike with Campagnolo system. Now a couple of words for the tools. Okay, we need a crank puller for the cheapest one. So the square tapered and the Octalink will need a crank puller. Then for the BSA system, we simply use such tool, such wrench, and we take those off, and it's easy. This one is for the additional bolt on the crank arm. Very easy. This one is being used for disassembling the crankset for the Octalink and square tapered. And we'll need completely different kind of tools for the BB30 bearings. When we assemble them, we'll need something like this just to press them in, and we'll need also some similar system for the Pressfit. And then to take them off, we need to use a hammer and also special tool. It's like anchor that will allow us to take those off the frame, to remove those. I hope it was pretty much all I wanted to tell you. So once again, square tapered and Octalink, the cheapest ones very heavy internal bearings, so not that stiff. The BSA system, easy external bearings, quite cheap. I would say you don't have to be replacing those very often, and it's very good. Then this one is from Shimano Dura Ace. This one is made by FSA. Pressfit system, I don't like those. Many riders are complaining this can be noisy stuff. And the BB30 oversized bearings, but they just come back again inside the frame, inside the shell on your frame. And I have no complaints. Some people do complain on these, especially for carbon frames. I've showed you also the Campagnolo system with the ceramic bearings. You can of course buy like BSA, for example, system with the ceramic bearings. This one is FSA MegaExo. It stands for BSA system, compatible with these Shimano systems, like this one spindle, and this one has the ceramic bearings. Ceramic bearings in the bottom bracket will be very expensive, and I have to have like very good reason to buy so much for some parts for my bike. But since we do not have so much RPMs on our crankset, so it's not more than 120 RPMs, like repetition per minute, I do not feel like we need some smoother bearings like ceramic bearings. These standard BSA or MegaExo bearings are just enough for me. So that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you. Please comment if you have any further suggestions for the buyers, and ask me a question if I just forgot to tell you something that is important for you. Thank you for watching. One more thing, maybe for the BB30 crankset, we simply use the Allen key, 6mm Allen key, to remove this one. And for the BSA, and I don't have the other crank here with me, the left one, we also use the Allen key in order to remove the crankset. So that's also easy stuff. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.